Please don't let your fiancé take Soo-jin home today. The words stopped Kang Min-jae cold. He looked down at a 7-year-old boy whose hands were trembling on his backpack straps. What did you say? The boy's eyes shot to the school gate, then away. Please, sir, don't let her see us talking. Why? Kai swallowed hard. Because if she finds out I told you, Soo-jin will get in trouble. Min-jae looked toward the gate. Soo-jin stood beside Yuna in her yellow jacket, not smiling, not moving. Every time he returned from a trip, she ran toward him before he reached the gate. Today she stood completely still and watched him like she was waiting for something she was afraid of. He looked back at Kai. Come with me. Min-jae led him to a quiet bench at the edge of the school grounds, away from the parents and teachers. The moment they sat down, Kai opened his backpack. The rabbit came out first. Soo-jin's rabbit. The one she slept with every night. One ear had been torn badly and stitched back together with crooked thread. Then came the photograph. Min-jae stopped breathing. It was an old family picture. Him, Soo-jin, and her late mother. The photograph had been ripped through the middle and taped back together. What happened to this? It happened after Yuna got upset, Kai whispered. Soo-jin tried to fix it herself. He pointed at the tape. She cried for a long time after. Why do you have these? Because Soo-jin told me to keep them safe. Why didn't she keep them herself? Kai looked toward the gate, then back. She said she won't need them where she's going. The words hung in the air between them. Min-jae didn't move, didn't speak, just looked at Kai for a long moment, this 7-year-old boy sitting on a bench with his best friend's most treasured possessions in his lap, holding them like they were something sacred. Then he stood. Come with me. They crossed the school grounds without a word. The closer they got to the gate, the more Min-jae slowed his breathing. Deliberately, consciously. The same way he did before walking into a room where everything depended on no one seeing what he was actually thinking. Yuna was still there. Laughing. Relaxed. One hand raised slightly as she spoke to another parent, her head tilted in that easy, elegant way that had once made him think she was effortless to be around. Soo-jin stood beside her, not next to her the way a child stands next to someone they trust, beside her the way a child stands next to someone they are waiting to be released from. Min-jae stopped in front of them. Yuna's smile widened immediately. You're back. Her eyes moved to Kai. Just for a second, the smile didn't disappear, but something behind it shifted, something small and fast that was gone before it fully arrived. Min-jae crouched down until he was level with Soo-jin. Hey, princess. Soo-jin looked up, and for one brief moment, just one, the tension in her small face broke open, and she looked exactly like herself. Daddy. Min-jae held up the rabbit. The smile vanished. Not slowly, instantly, like a light switched off. He didn't look at Soo-jin's face. He looked at Yuna's. He saw it, the stillness, half a second of it. Then the smile returned, warm and unbothered. Soo-jin, his voice stayed gentle. What happened to Mr. Bunny's ear? Soo-jin opened her mouth. Oh, that. Yuna laughed softly. It caught on a drawer handle a few weeks ago. I meant to get it properly fixed. Min-jae had asked Soo-jin, not Yuna. He looked back at his daughter. She was no longer looking at him. She was looking at Yuna, watching her, waiting, the way children watch adults when they are afraid of saying the wrong thing in front of the wrong person. Min-jae reached into his jacket and unfolded the photograph. This time Yuna smile flickered. Barely, but it did. But it did. How about this? A small laugh, a slight shake of the head. That old thing fell from her nightstand. Kids are so rough with everything. Min-jae looked at Soo-jin. Soo-jin looked at the ground. No nod, no disagreement. No reaction at all. Just silence. The practiced silence of a child who had learned that speaking sometimes made things worse. That silence said more than any answer could have. Min-jae folded the photograph, slipped it back into his pocket. Stood up slowly. Good. He smiled, calm, polite. The particular smile he used in boardrooms when he had already decided what he was going to do and simply hadn't told anyone yet. Soo-jin is staying with me tonight. The world didn't stop. The parking lot didn't go quiet. No one else noticed anything. But Yuna went completely still. Less than a second. Then the smile came back, smooth and easy. Of course. Too fast. The words came back too fast. Min-jae looked at her, and somewhere beneath the calm surface of his expression, something shifted permanently. He had looked at this woman across dinner tables and through morning light and on ordinary evenings when everything seemed fine. He had believed he knew her. Standing here now, watching her perform warmth while his daughter stared at the ground, he understood he had never known her at all. The drive home was quiet. On any normal afternoon, Soo-jin would have filled the entire car with stories, school gossip, Kai adventures, questions that somehow always ended with a request for ice cream. Today she sat in the back seat with the rabbit pressed against her chest and stared out the window. Halfway home, Min-jae's phone rang. Yuna. In the mirror, he saw Soo-jin's fingers tighten around the rabbit. Immediately, without thinking, he answered. Yuna's voice came through warm and soft. Just checking you got on the road safely. Tell Soo-jin I miss her already. Min-jae glanced at the mirror. Soo-jin looked down at her lap. She says hi, he replied. Soo-jin said nothing. After the call ended, Min-jae turned into a small ice cream shop instead of heading home. Soo-jin looked up. Daddy? We're skipping dinner rules tonight. A small smile appeared, the first real smile he had seen from her all afternoon. They sat by the window, chocolate ice cream for her, coffee for him. The rabbit sat between them on the table. Min-jae didn't rush her. Eventually, Soo-jin spoke. Quietly. Is Yuna angry at me? Min-jae looked at her. Why would she be angry? Soo-jin immediately looked down. He changed approach. You can tell me anything. She stirred her ice cream. Daddy, when people get married, do they stop loving the people they loved before? The question hit harder than he expected. No, he said. Never? Really? A long pause. Then Yuna says that's not true. Min-jae set down his coffee. What did she say? Soo-jin glanced around the shop before lowering her voice. She said after the wedding you'll have a new family. His stomach tightened. And I'll have to go somewhere else. Where? Boarding school. Min-jae went still. He had never discussed boarding school, never suggested it, never even mentioned it. Yet Soo-jin sat across from him, believing it had already been decided. She said you picked her, Soo-jin whispered. She said that's what happens when dads get married again. For a moment, everything clicked into place. The rabbit, the torn photograph, the fear, the sadness. Then Soo-jin looked down at the rabbit. That's why I gave my things to Kai. Min-jae's chest tightened. Why? I didn't want them getting thrown away. He stared at her. Thrown away? Soo-jin nodded. Yuna said there wouldn't be room for them anymore. A pause. Then she added quietly, she already threw some things away. What things? The drawings Mommy made with me. Min-jae froze. The ones I kept in my room. His grip tightened around the coffee cup. When I came home from school, they were gone. Soo-jin lowered her eyes. Yuna said old things make people sad. Silence. Then one final whisper. She told me not to tell you. Min-jae looked at his daughter across the table. For the first time that day, he had more than suspicions. He had something real. And before the night was over, he intended to find out exactly what had been happening inside his own home. The moment Soo-jin fell asleep, Min-jae went into her room. Not the way a father checks on his child before bed. He walked in the way he walked into a room when something wasn't adding up, and he needed to understand why. Everything looked normal. Pink curtains, bookshelves, stuffed animals along the window. Too normal. Then he saw the walls, pale rectangles where the paint was slightly brighter, clean patches where things had hung for a long time and been recently removed. He knew those spaces. He remembered what had filled them. Soo-jin and her mother at the beach. The birthday photo where Soo-jin had frosting on her nose and didn't know it yet. Gone. Every one of them. He checked the drawers, the closet, the storage boxes, nothing, not a single photograph anywhere in the room. Then he found the art folder pushed flat under the bed. He opened it. 3 drawings. There should have been dozens. For years, Soo-jin had kept everything. Every crayon picture, every card she had made for her mother. She kept them the way children keep things that matter. Almost all of it was gone. He sat on the edge of the bed. His phone vibrated. School records from his assistant. The absences came first. 4, then 6, then 8. Every single one during his business trips. Then the teacher notes. Student appears withdrawn. Student frequently anxious before pickup. Student reported fear of being sent away. He read that last line twice. The same fear Soo-jin had whispered to him over melting ice cream just hours ago. Except this wasn't new. Teachers had been documenting it for months, flagging it, watching his daughter quietly fall apart and wondering why nobody was responding. He scrolled further. Teacher requested parent meeting. Guardian declined. Guardian stated child was imagining things. He already knew which guardian had answered. Down the hall, Soo-jin was asleep with the rabbit pressed against her chest. For months she had been frightened inside her own life, and he hadn't known. By 6 the next morning, he was sitting in the principal's office. The principal looked uncomfortable the moment he walked in. The school counselor beside her looked worse. "You said there were concerns." Min-jae kept his voice even. "Show me." The folder the principal opened was thicker than he expected. Concern reports, teacher observations, counselor notes, 8 months of records. "We believed you were aware," she said carefully. "I wasn't. We contacted home multiple times. We received responses." A pause. "From Yuna." The counselor leaned forward. Soo-jin frequently appeared distressed before pickup. Several teachers noted she became tense whenever conversation involved home. One afternoon, another student mentioned boarding school at lunch. A pause. Soo-jin became extremely upset. "What did she say?" The counselor read directly from the report. "My daddy doesn't want me anymore." The office went quiet. Min-jae didn't move. He kept his face exactly where it needed to be and let the words settle somewhere deep. The principal slid another document across the desk. A report filed 3 months earlier. Student stated she was left alone overnight. Teacher reported concern. Guardian denied claim. Alone overnight. Soo-jin had told a teacher. Yuna had called it imagination. "We wanted to speak with you directly," the counselor said. "We never got the opportunity." "There was something else," the principal added. Min-jae looked up. For several weeks, Soo-jin regularly skipped lunch. His stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" "At first we assumed she simply wasn't hungry," the counselor said. Then another student started sharing food with her. "Kai?" The counselor nodded. Eventually his mother noticed. She owns the bakery near the school. Min-jae said nothing. She began packing an extra lunch, one for her son and one for Soo-jin. The principal exchanged a glance with the counselor. "She seemed genuinely concerned about your daughter." "What is her name?" "Chelsea." "We normally wouldn't discuss another parent," the counselor added quietly, "but she was one of the few adults outside the school who noticed something wasn't right." Min-jae looked down at the reports again. For months, strangers had been seeing pieces of what he had missed. A daughter who had spent those months believing she was being sent away and that her father had already agreed to it. He thought of Kai on that bench, holding things that didn't belong to him, trying to protect a little girl he couldn't fully protect alone. He thought of Chelsea, packing extra lunches for a child she barely knew because she had noticed what others hadn't. He hadn't come here to confirm something was wrong. He already knew that. He came to understand exactly how long it had been wrong. Now he knew that too. The building manager was smiling when Min-jae walked in. He stopped smiling quickly. "Entry records, apartment 1407. "Is there a problem?" "Yes." 20 minutes later, a printed report sat between them. Dates, times, entry, exit, nearly a year of records. Min-jae found April 12th. Yuna left at 8:47 p.m., returned at 6:13 a.m. He checked his phone. April 13th, Soo-jin absent. He kept reading. The pattern repeated across every page. Late exits, overnight absences. His daughter's name marked missing the following morning. Every single instance fell during one of his business trips. Was she leaving alone? The manager shifted. Most times. Min-jae looked at him. Most times. The manager reached for a second file. A visitor log. One name appeared repeatedly. Park Junho. Who is he? I assumed he was family. Min-jae looked at the dates, the frequency, the timing, not family. Something much worse. That evening, his study was quiet. Apartment records, school reports, teacher notes spread across the desk, waiting to become a complete picture. Then the financial file arrived. He had created Soo-jin's activity account 2 years ago. Funded it every month without fail. Theme parks, movie trips, birthday surprises planned from the other side of the world. A promise to a daughter who spent too many evenings waiting for her father. He scrolled through the statements. The money had not been spent on Soo-jin. Almost none of it. Instead, large transfers appeared at regular intervals. Always the same destination. He clicked through to the account details. Park Jun name, the same man. Thousands of dollars, month after month, moved quietly from his daughter's account to a man he hadn't heard of until yesterday. His phone buzzed. Yuna. A photo of her at a restaurant. Wine glass raised, candles in the background. Miss you. Min-jae looked at the photo, then at Park's name. then at the transfer amounts. He placed the phone face down on the desk. He had trusted her with everything: his home, his daughter, his finances. He had sat across dinner tables from this woman and believed every word she said. Every page on that desk said otherwise, and somewhere across the city, completely unaware that it was all coming apart. Yuna sent another heart emoji. 3 days later, Min-jae had a name. Now he needed a story to go with it. His assistant arrived just after noon with a thin black folder and set it on the desk without a word. Min-jae opened it. Park Junho, 41 years old, his assistant said. Former marketing executive, currently unemployed. 3 years of financial difficulties, outstanding debts. Min-jae turned the page. Photographs, restaurants, parking garages, shopping districts, different locations, different days, different lighting, the same 2 people in every single one. Yuna and Junho. Not once, not twice. The dates ran back almost a year. Yuna laughing, Yuna holding his arm, Yuna in the kind of photographs people take when they aren't hiding anything, because they believe no one is looking. It gets worse, his assistant said. The next photograph was a hotel lobby, Yuna and Yunho walking in together. The timestamp at the bottom of the image was one of the nights Soo-jin had been left alone in that apartment. The room went very quiet. Min-jae looked at the photograph for a long moment. Then, how long? At least 11 months. 11 months. Nearly a year of sitting across dinner tables and smiling. Nearly a year of wedding conversations and future plans. Nearly a year of living one life in front of him and an entirely different one everywhere else. His assistant slid over the final page. Phone records. Hundreds of calls. Thousands of messages. Min-jae looked at the numbers, then closed the folder. The mystery was gone. What remained was evidence. Photographs, hotel records, phone logs, financial transfers. Nearly a year of lies laid out across his desk, and Min-jae intended to collect every piece of it. To do that, he needed one thing. Yuna needed to feel safe. That evening he called her. It rang twice. Min-jae. Her voice came through warm and relieved the way it always did. I've missed you. So have I. He leaned back in his chair. Let's have dinner tomorrow, just us. The smile in her voice was immediate. I'd love that. He ended the call. Across the city, Yuna finally relaxed, exactly as he needed her to. She arrived 20 minutes early. Elegant, perfectly dressed, smiling the moment she spotted him across the restaurant. Min-jae stood, pulled out her chair, ordered her favorite wine, and listened to her talk. That was all he did. He listened, and he watched. Yuna talked about restaurants she wanted to try. Friends she had seen, wedding venues, vacation ideas, future houses, children someday. A future she described in careful, beautiful detail while quietly doing everything she could to destroy the present. Then she made a mistake. Small, casual. The kind people make when they are certain they aren't being watched. I spent Tuesday night at home. Min-jae took a slow sip of water. The hotel photograph was time-stamped Tuesday night. Really? Not a question. Just a word. Yes. The lie came without hesitation, without a flicker. He smiled and said nothing. 20 minutes later, she made another mistake, then another. By the time dessert arrived, he had counted 7. Not suspicions, not assumptions. 7 verified lies, each one landing quietly while Yuna smiled across the candlelight, completely unaware that anything was wrong. Why would she be aware? As far as she knew, Min-jae still trusted her. As far as she knew, Soo-jin would be gone soon. As far as she knew, she was winning. When dinner ended, he walked her to her car. She kissed his cheek. Good night. Good night. He watched her taillights disappear around the corner. Then he took out his phone. Start organizing everything, he told his assistant. Everything? Everything. The photographs, the transfers, the phone records, the school reports, the apartment entry logs, every single piece. Because before the week was over, Yuna was going to learn something she had never considered. Min-jae wasn't gathering evidence to protect himself. He was gathering it to protect his daughter. Min-jae did not go to the office that morning. He went to Chelsea's bakery. Not the main branch downtown. The smaller one beside the school. Yellow curtains, warm light, a chalkboard sign outside that read, Fresh cinnamon rolls before 9. Chelsea was behind the counter when he walked in, tying a pink ribbon around a pastry box. She looked up. Her hands stopped. She recognized him before he said a word. The school counselor had mentioned he might stop by. And Kai had not stopped talking about Soo-jin's father since the day at the bench. Mr. Kang. May I speak with you? She glanced once toward the kitchen, then toward the empty tables by the window. Of course. They sat across from each other at the far table. Chelsea did not waste time. Is this about Soo-jin? Yes. Her face didn't show surprise. It showed something that had already been waiting there, concern that had nowhere to go until now. She reached into her apron pocket and placed a folded napkin on the table between them. Min-jae opened it, his daughter's handwriting. Small, careful, slightly uneven the way it always was when she was concentrating. Thank you for the lunch. He stared at it. I started packing extra food, Chelsea said quietly, because Kai told me she wasn't eating. At first I thought she was just a picky eater. Then I realized she spent most lunch periods barely touching her food. Min-jae looked up. So I started packing a little extra for Kai. He began sharing it with her. He looked back down at the note. Thank you for the lunch. 4 words. But the way a child writes thank you when they are not used to being given things said everything Chelsea wasn't saying. Did Yuna know? Chelsea's expression shifted slightly. I don't know, but whenever Kai offered her food in front of other people, Soo-jin looked scared, like accepting something kind was something she could get in trouble for. She stood without another word and disappeared into the back. She returned with a small box. Inside were napkins, folded, tiny, covered in his daughter's handwriting. Thank you. The cupcake was pretty. Please don't tell. Min-jae stopped at the last one. Please don't tell. He read it twice, then set it down carefully. That was the day I knew something was wrong, Chelsea said. The bakery hummed quietly around them. Someone ordered at the counter. A timer went off in the kitchen. Mr. Kang, Chelsea's voice was steady. No drama, no performance. I don't know what is happening in your house, but I know what a hungry child looks like. I know what a frightened child looks like. Your daughter has been both. Min-jae looked at the notes spread across the table. Thank you for helping her. Chelsea's eyes softened. She's a child. She shouldn't have needed help. For the first time that morning, Min-jae looked away, because a woman who barely knew his daughter had seen what he had missed entirely. By the time he reached his car, the next file was already waiting. His assistant had sent receipts, theme park tickets purchased, never scanned, horse riding lessons paid for, never attended, museum passes bought and refunded, children's clothing charges that didn't match Soo-jin's size, restaurant bills for 2 adults on the exact days Yuna had told him she was taking Soo-jin out for a girls' day. Min-jae sat in the parked car outside the bakery and read every single line. The money hadn't simply disappeared, it had been performed. A theme park trip that never happened, a girls' day that existed only in the telling, a childhood being billed to an account while the child sat alone eating nothing. His phone buzzed. Are you busy? Yuna. He typed back. A little. Why? Her reply came fast. I miss Soo-jin. Can I see her tonight? Min-jae looked up from the phone. Through the bakery window, Chelsea was handing Kai a small paper bag. The boy was laughing at something she said, leaning against the counter the way children lean against people they feel completely safe with. For one moment, Min-jae saw exactly what Soo-jin had been walking toward every single day at school. Not just a friend. Warmth. Food. A place where nobody made her feel like a problem. He typed back, Not tonight. She's resting. Yuna sent a sad emoji. Then, poor baby, tell her I love her. Min-jae stared at those 4 words for a long moment. Then he called his assistant. I need one more thing. Every refund, every canceled booking, every purchase made from Soo-jin's activity account. All of it. All of it? All of it. He ended the call. Through the window, Kai was helping Chelsea stack pastry boxes, chattering about something with both hands moving. The boy who had sat on a bench with a stuffed rabbit in his lap and decided that speaking up was worth the risk. A 7-year-old had seen what he missed. A baker who owed him nothing had fed his daughter every day without being asked. And Yuna had taken his daughter's loneliness and turned it into money. Min-jae started the car. The next time Yuna asked to see Soo-jin, he would say yes. Not because he trusted her. Because he needed to watch exactly what she did when she believed nobody was watching. Min-jae called Yuna and kept his voice warm. Easy. The voice of a man who suspected nothing. Lunch tomorrow, the 3 of us. She agreed immediately. She arrived perfectly dressed and smiling. The moment she saw Soo-jin, she opened her arms wide. My sweet girl. Soo-jin stopped walking, Just for a second, then she stepped forward. Min-jae watched the way he watched people across boardroom tables, still, patient, taking in everything while appearing to take in nothing. Yuna performed beautifully, attentive, gentle, the kind of woman any stranger would have looked at and thought, what a lovely family. Then Soo-jin knocked over her juice. Small accident, the waiter was already moving. But Min-jae was watching Yuna's face, a flash. Cold and hard behind the eyes, there and gone in less than a heartbeat. Soo-jin caught it. Her shoulders pulled inward, her hands trembled. She was already apologizing before the waiter reached them. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Barely a whisper. Over and over. Children didn't apologize like that over spilled juice, not unless they had learned that accidents had consequences. When Yuna excused herself for a phone call, Soo-jin's entire body changed. Shoulders dropped, breathing slowed. She picked up her fork and actually started eating without watching anyone's face first. Children didn't relax when safe people left the table. They relaxed when the danger did. That night, he sat beside her bed. Rain tapped the window. Soo-jin was drawing flowers, soft clouds, her mind somewhere peaceful. Min-jae waited until the pencil slowed. Will you tell me the truth? She nodded. When Yuna gets upset, what does she do? The pencil stopped. She doesn't like it when I talk about Mommy. A pause. She says I should stop bringing her up. One time I put Mommy's picture beside my bed. Her voice dropped. It got torn. Min-jae said nothing. She said if I kept living in the past, you would stop loving me. Soo-jin stared at her drawing. She said people only get one family, and after the wedding, you would have yours. The room held that sentence. Min-jae finally understood the full picture. This was never just about boarding school. Month after month, Yuna had been convincing a 7-year-old that she was already being replaced, that her mother was a problem, that her grief was inconvenient, that love had limits and she was reaching hers. Until Soo-jin believed it completely. Until she started giving away her rabbit and her photographs. Not because she thought she was going somewhere else, because she believed she no longer belonged where she already was. Min-jae looked at his daughter, at the small hand resting on the unfinished drawing, at the rabbit that had sat beside her every night for 4 years. The calm he had carried through every meeting, every dinner, every moment of this investigation shifted, not into rage, something quieter than rage, the kind that doesn't shout, it decides. Yuna had run out of time. The next morning, Min-jae called Yuna. His voice was warm, easy, exactly as it always had been. They talked about the wedding, weekend plans, a restaurant she wanted to try. By the time the call ended, she sounded lighter than she had in weeks. Min-jae set the phone down. His assistant frowned. You're not confronting her? Not yet. You have enough evidence. I know. Min-jae picked up another file. Liars tell the truth when they feel safe. That afternoon, Yuna arrived smiling, carrying bags, talking about honeymoon destinations. She moved through the house like she owned it. Then Soo-jin walked in holding the rabbit. Yuna saw it. For less than a second. Annoyance. Raw and involuntary. Then the smile returned. But Soo-jin had already seen it. She pulled the rabbit tighter against her chest without a word. Min-jae said nothing. One more crack in the mask. I bought something for Soo-jin. Yuna set the bags on the table. Expensive clothes, designer shoes, hair accessories. Min-jae checked the receipt. Purchased that morning from Soo-jin's activity account. The same account Yuna had claimed she never touched. He smiled. She'll love them. Yuna relaxed completely. Across the room, Soo-jin hadn't looked at the bags once. She and Kai were on the floor laughing over a block tower. Yuna watched them. She seems very attached to that boy. Min-jae heard the edge beneath it. He said nothing. That evening, his assistant called. A witness, one of the apartment cleaners. She remembered Soo-jin alone, remembered a child crying behind the door at night, remembered Yuna returning the next morning like nothing happened. Signed, dated, documented. Min-jae placed it on the pile. The evidence folder was growing thicker. Yuna had no idea she was helping build it. That Saturday, he went to Soo-jin's soccer practice. Chelsea was already on the sideline. Kai was sprinting everywhere. Soo-jin was chasing him in a yellow jersey, 2 sizes too big, her ponytail completely fallen apart. She was laughing. Min-jae stopped walking. He hadn't heard that sound in months. Not like this. Not free. Chelsea came to stand beside him. She's different today. She is. Kai tripped. Soo-jin laughed so hard she grabbed her knees. Kai looked up from the ground and laughed too. You know why? Chelsea said quietly. Min-jae waited. Because she isn't afraid of what happens when she gets home. His phone vibrated. 3 photos, Yoona and Park Joon-ho outside a jewelry store. Timestamp 2 days ago, the same afternoon she said she was visiting her aunt. Security footage confirmed, an expensive watch, left wearing it. Chelsea noticed his expression. Bad news? He looked back at the field, at Soo-jin running with her arms wide open. No, he said, it's the last piece I needed. He already knew the truth. Now he was deciding how Yoona would face it. Yoona arrived smiling. She thought they were discussing wedding plans. She found Min-jae in the living room with his assistant and a lawyer, a thick folder on the coffee table between them. The smile didn't disappear immediately. It took a second, like her face needed a moment to understand what her eyes were seeing. What is this? Min-jae opened the folder without answering. School reports, teacher observations, counselor notes. 8 months of documented concerns she had intercepted, denied, and buried. Min-jae, you told my daughter she was being sent to boarding school. Yoona's expression shifted. She misunderstood. You told her I already agreed. Children exaggerate. You told her that after the wedding she would no longer be part of this family. The room went quiet. Min-jae slid the apartment records across the table, then the witness statement from the cleaning staff. The woman who remembered a child crying alone behind a door at night. The woman who remembered Yoona returning the next morning as though nothing had happened. For the first time since she walked in, Yoona looked genuinely afraid. The excuses came quickly. Soo-jin was sensitive. Soo-jin had a big imagination. Soo-jin misunderstood simple conversations and turned them into something they were never meant to be. Min-jae let her finish. Then he opened the financial records. Theme park tickets purchased and never scanned. Activities paid for and never attended. Thousands of dollars redirected from his daughter's account in clean regular transfers, all to one name. Park Joon-ho Yoona stopped talking. Then came the photographs. Restaurants, a hotel lobby, a jewelry store 2 days after she told him she was visiting her aunt. Park Joon-ho leaving with an expensive watch on his wrist. The folder had 14 more pages. Min-jae didn't need to show all of them. By the time he reached the middle, Yoona had stopped defending herself entirely. The performance was gone. The composure was gone. What remained was someone who had run out of road and knew it. She started crying. The lawyer looked at his notes. The assistant looked at the wall. Min-jae looked at Yoona and said nothing. The engagement ended that afternoon. No shouting. No dramatic scene. Just the quiet that comes after the truth has finally said everything it needed to say. Yoona packed her things and left. At the door, she paused, just long enough to make it clear she was waiting for Min-jae to say something, to soften, to give her a reason to stay. He didn't. The door closed. The house felt different immediately, not because someone had left, because the lies had gone with her. A few minutes later, Min-jae heard footsteps on the stairs. Soo-jin appeared at the hallway entrance, clutching her rabbit. She looked toward the front door, then back at him. Did Yoona leave? Min-jae nodded once. Soo-jin didn't smile. She didn't celebrate. She simply stood there for a long moment. Then she walked across the room and sat beside him, the rabbit between them. Neither of them spoke. Neither of them needed to. For the first time in months, both of them could finally breathe. That night, Min-jae sat beside Soo-jin's bed. The rabbit rested between them. The rain had returned, tapping softly against the glass the way it always did on quiet nights. Daddy? Yes, her fingers tightened around the blanket. Am I still going away? The question landed like something dropped from a great height. No. She looked up at him. No boarding school. No sending you away. He held her gaze so she would understand he meant every word. You are my daughter, Soo-jin. You will always be my daughter. She threw her arms around him. The rabbit slipped onto the bed between them. Min-jae held her while she cried. Months of fear finally leaving her body all at once. Months of believing she wasn't wanted. Months of carrying something no 7-year-old should ever have to carry alone. When she finally pulled back, her eyes were red and her cheeks were wet, and she looked at him the way she used to before any of this began. Really? Min-jae smiled. Really? And this time, she believed him completely. The changes were small at first. The rabbit returned to its place beside Soo-jin's bed. New photographs appeared on the walls. The little girl who used to watch every adult's face before deciding how to react slowly began to disappear. In her place came laughter, the kind that arrived without warning and didn't apologize for itself. Bakery visits became routine. Some afternoons, Min-jae would arrive to pick Soo-jin up and find her already at a corner table with Kai, both of them covered in crumbs, arguing about something only 7-year-olds took seriously. Chelsea would look up from behind the counter with an expression that said, "I've asked them twice already." She never actually minded. Weeks passed. Soo-jin talked more, slept better, stopped checking faces before she smiled. And little by little, Chelsea stopped feeling like someone at the edge of their lives. She became part of them. The surprise happened on a Saturday. Min-jae pulled into the parking lot and turned off the engine without a word. Kai looked up at the building. Then he screamed. Soo-jin looked at Kai screaming. Then she screamed too. What followed was 3 hours of complete beautiful chaos. Trampolines, foam pits, arcade machines that took money with alarming efficiency, racing simulators that Kai immediately identified as his destiny. His destiny beat him 6 times in a row. The machine is cheating. "You lost 6 times, Soo-jin said. Kai pointed at her. "Whose side are you on?" Then they found the claw machine. A large stuffed bear sat in the center, looking extremely confident. Min-jae studied it, inserted a token, and missed. Tried again, also missed. Chelsea watched from 2 feet away with the expression of someone trying very hard to say nothing. She lasted until the 4th attempt. By the 6th, she was holding onto the machine for support. "It's not," Jay said. "I know," Chelsea managed. "I know it's not." Soo-jin stepped forward quietly, pressed the button once, and the claw dropped the bear directly into the slot. Kai threw both arms into the air. "I trained her. You didn't train me," Soo-jin said. "I trained her," Kai told Min-jae seriously. The bear traveled with them for the rest of the afternoon like a championship trophy. Later, they sat outside with ice cream. Kai had chocolate across his entire face and seemed unbothered. Soo-jin had strawberry on her nose and only discovered it when Chelsea pointed at her, laughing. Min-jae sat beside Chelsea on a bench watching the children race across the grass for no reason other than that it existed. "She looks like herself again," Chelsea said quietly. Min-jae watched Soo-jin spin in a circle for absolutely no reason. "She does." Simple words. But in that moment, with the afternoon light falling warm across the grass and his daughter laughing freely, it was the truest thing either of them had said all day. The cake decorating afternoon began with good intentions. It lasted approximately 4 minutes before everything went sideways. Kai got icing on the table immediately. He had a plan, he explained, that required spreading the icing first to understand the surface area. Nobody understood this plan, including Kai. Soo-jin got frosting on her cheek, reaching for the sprinkles. Kai pointed at her. She looked at him. Something passed between them that adults cannot fully read, but always means trouble. Within 90 seconds, Kai had frosting in his hair, and Soo-jin was trying to look innocent, which she was not. Then they both looked at Min-jae. "Don't," he said. They did. Min-jae stood there with icing on his sleeve, looking at 2 children gripping the counter for support because they were laughing too hard to stand. Chelsea appeared from behind the counter. She looked at his sleeve, then at the children, then back at him. "I'll get you a cloth," she said. Then she joined them. "This is betrayal," Min-jae said. "Yes," Chelsea agreed, laughing. By the end, the bakery looked like it had experienced some kind of weather event. Flour on the counter. Icing on 3 people. 4 cakes that were deeply, confidently wrong. Kai walked slowly around Min-jae's cake, examined it from multiple angles. "It looks expensive," he said finally. Min-jae narrowed his eyes. "That's not a compliment." "No," Kai agreed. It wasn't. Soo-jin slid off her chair. The laughter that followed filled the entire room. Chelsea, Kai, Soo-jin, and Min-jae, despite everything, laughing too. They ate the cakes anyway. Kai defended his until the very last bite. Then, Soo-jin wandered toward the wall near the counter. A photograph hung there, new, all 4 of them taken at the game park the week before. Soo-jin holding the bear, Kai mid-celebration, Chelsea laughing, Min-jae watching all 3 of them with an expression he probably didn't know his face was making. Soo-jin stood in front of it without speaking. Then, she smiled. Not the careful smile she had worn for months, not the small, watching smile that disappeared the moment she thought nobody was looking. A real one. Full. Unhidden. The smile of a child who finally believed she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Kai appeared beside her. "You know," he said, "this only happened because I saved everybody." Soo-jin turned to look at him. "You say that every single day." "Because it's true every single day." Chelsea laughed from behind the counter. Min-jae shook his head. Soo-jin looked at the photograph one more time, then back at Kai. "Fine," she said. "You saved everybody." Kai nodded, satisfied. "Thank you." The bakery had gone quiet. Chelsea was wiping down the counter. Kai was still making his case to nobody in particular. The afternoon light came through the yellow curtains, warm and unhurried. Min-jae looked across the room. Soo-jin was sitting on the counter beside Chelsea, swinging her legs, talking about something that was making Chelsea smile without looking up from what she was doing. He watched her for a moment. Not the daughter who had pressed a rabbit into her best friend's bag because she thought she was leaving. Not the little girl who had apologized over spilled juice and made herself small in rooms where she was supposed to feel safe. Just Soo-jin, his daughter. Completely, finally, herself. She looked up and found him watching. "Daddy?" "Yes?" She hesitated just for a second. Then the real smile came. "Can we come back tomorrow?" Chelsea glanced over without saying anything. Kai stopped arguing and grinned. Min-jae looked at his daughter sitting in the warm light of a bakery that had quietly somehow become the place where everything good happened. "Tomorrow sounds perfect," he said. Soo-jin kicked her legs once, satisfied, and went back to her conversation. For the first time in a very long time, tomorrow didn't feel like something to be afraid of. It felt like something to look forward to.